In this video, I'm going to show how I made this spline jig for use on my router table. I'm making a memory box for some friends, and I want to do some decorative splines on the corners. The easiest way that I can think to make these repeatable is to create a jig. For those of you who have not gotten into jigs in your projects, this is a great way to take your woodworking to the next level. Jigs can range from extremely simple to rather complicated. This is going to be somewhere in the middle.
Here I will start by cutting a 24-inch piece off the end of this piece of plywood. That will make both pieces easier to handle. And then I'll split this 24-inch piece into two 12-inch pieces. I only need one of them for all the pieces for this jig. Here I was having issues with my camera and I didn't get it recorded, but I had cut one 10-inch piece with a 45-degree angle on one end. Next I'm going to turn the saw blade back to 90 degrees so that I can cut the remainder of the pieces. But first I'm going to check it for square with my 1-2-3 block, checking both sides. Then I'll line up my crosscut sled, cut the other bed piece, line up the base and cut it. Next I will cut a 6 by 12 inch piece. Then I will take that and cut it in half. Then I will take the two halves and cut them in half on a 45-degree angle. Here I'm using my speed square and the kerf on my crosscut sled to get that 45-degree angle. And then I'll use these hold down clamps to hold it in place while I cut it. I'll cut the first one. And then the second one. These pieces will support the two bed pieces and fasten them to the base. Here I'm doing a dry fit just to make sure that everything is coming together just as I planned. And now I'll check it for square. So far, so good. I recently bought this match fit hardware for use on this jig and some others that I have in mind. I've been excited to try it out. This hardware fits into a 1/2-inch dovetail groove. But before cutting the groove with the dovetail bit, I first need to remove some material with a dado blade. So I'm not actually going to use my dado stack. I'm just going to use the kerf on my saw blade. I'll cut one groove and then use an 1/8 inch setup block, scoot it over, and cut the other one to give me that 1/4 inch. Then I'll repeat the process on the second one, cutting both grooves. And then I'll go over to my router table where I'll remove a bit that I've got in the table and then install a brand new 1/2-inch router bit. Install my safety rings, lower the bit into place, and then using my setup blocks, I will use my 3/8 inch block and my 1-2-3 block setting on top of it to measure the bit to the correct height. And then with my router fence the correct distance away from the bit, I'll run the first one through, and then the second one. And now over to my drill press. I need to drill a hole for the router bit to pass through. But before I can do that, I have to figure out which one of these is my 1-inch bit. The marking has been rubbed off the end by the chuck, hence the caliper. And then I will drill 2 holes, going just deep enough until the tip passes through the other side. I don't want to go all the way through so I don't blow out the back side of this plywood. And then I will flip the board over, drill the rest of the way through, and then I'll take it over to my jigsaw and I will finish the hole all the way around. Once I get the waste out of there, then I'll clean it up on my spindle sander. Now with all my pieces and slots cut, it's time to start putting everything together. As you can see, I already put the one on the right together, and now I'm working on the one on the left. I'm using a countersink drill bit to pre-drill all my holes, and then fill them with an 1.25" drywall screw. I want to get the screw heads below the surface so that I don't scratch any of the workpieces that I put in this jig. And as I'm getting the top pieces fastened together, then I will take and I will check it for square just to make sure everything's holding true. And now I'll take the jig and set it on its side so that I can fasten the base to the rest of the jig. The support pieces are 2 inches in, so I used my 2-inch and my 3/8" setup block to measure so that I will drill right into the middle of those pieces. So I'll countersink more holes, drive in more screws, slide it around on the table, check it for square, check this match fit clamp to make sure that it works, slide it around on the table some more. So here's where I ran into a bit of an issue. At the beginning of this video, I said that this was going to be a router jig, but I'm having an issue with my router table drifting up and down, so I'm plunging a cut to use this on my table saw instead. And now I'm going to make one of the stop blocks using the match fit hardware. To do so, I'm marking a line and then drilling a hole in this board, and then I will put it on this match fit spindle and then fasten it down using one of the wing nuts provided in the kit. I'll line it up with my tape measure and my square and tighten everything down. And then I will place the box in the jig, and then I'll use the match fit clamp and another board to provide a stop on the other side. And then I'm going to make a test cut. Here's where I ran into another issue. As you can see, the saw just kicked back on me because I had the jig too far back in the plunge cut. I'm not ready to commit to putting a miter slot runner on the bottom of this jig yet, so instead I'm going to use the secondary fence to keep the jig from drifting side to side. Then I will add some start and stop blocks using some fence clamps that I have. So I'll drill a hole in the edge of this board, fit the clamp in, drill a hole in another board, loosen the clamp, and then fasten it to the saw. And now I'll check to make sure that I've got good movement from the jig. So now it's time to start cutting splines. Make a cut, flip the box, make another cut, flip the box, make another cut, and make the fourth one on this side. And now I'll rotate the box, cut a spline, and rotate it, cut another one, and rotate it, and then cut the final one, because there was already a test one in there. So now I'm going to check my work. I like it. Now I'm going to cut an 1/8" strip out of this piece of bloodwood. I'm going to check and make sure that I've got enough room to get this all the way through the saw. This bloodwood is really hard. This brand new saw blade is amazing. It cuts stuff even as hard as bloodwood without any effort. Check to make sure this will fit. With a little sanding, these will be perfect.
As you can see, projects don't always go as planned, and you have to make adjustments along the way. I had every intention of making this jig to do dovetail splines, and I still can as soon as I fix the lift in my router table. It has a tendency to drift up and down. That is why I'm not willing to commit to placing the miter slot runner on the bottom at this point. If you have any suggestions on how I can fix my router lift, let me know in the comments below. The lift I'm using is one that I bought some plans online, and I got all the parts for less than 50 bucks. But I'm starting to think that buying one of the nice precision lifts is one that is going to be well worth the money. But enough about my router lift. That's for another video. In my next video, I'll be finishing the memory box that I was cutting the splines for on this jig. To be notified when that video comes out, hit the subscribe button. For those of you who have made it this far in the video, thanks for watching. I really appreciate it. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you on the next one.